Thank you all for giving this opportunity and very good morning all and welcome to this presentation. And today I would like to let me know, I would like to share my screen on the PPT and please confirm whether you're able to see or not.
You can see it, Vamshi.
Thank you. And this is one of the feature in the Azure Migrate option, and I request not to execute on or deploy on the production environment as of now, because this service is in preview mode, and this is the new feature, which is like an containerizing the ASP.NET app, which is already deployed to the IIS servers, and that can be containerized and directly we can deploy to the AKS infrastructure or existing infrastructure or to the new infrastructure. And today's agenda, if you go and the motivation migration journeys. So as of now on the on-premise or the today's environment, what are the difficulties or what are the dependencies to move to cloud, and how the migration journey should be to move to any cloud, and what are the tools we have in the journey or in the migration approach. And I have gone through the Azure Migrate option in the Azure, and there we can explain about how the servers or databases or the web apps can be migrated seamlessly or to establish a connection, hybrid connection between on-premise and Azure. And for other services like the Linux open source databases, which has the new offerings like we can move to like Azure PostgreSQL and different types of databases. And there is another option called Azure VMware solution, which is like an SDDC, is called a software defined data center, which provides all the features as of which has same in the on-premise VMware infrastructure. And after that, we'll move with a demo session. In this demo, I would like to create one ASP.NET application on the Visual Studio, and we'll containerize that app, and that will be published to the one of the existing AKS infrastructure. And so what are the different like motivations as of now today to move to Azure? Like let's say customer has an DC contract expires, and now it's time to move or to think about the existing infrastructure, how to move or how to save or how to where to save or how to maintain the online futures as of now. And whether to continue in the extended or do we need to extend the contract on the same domain data center. And but if you go with the existing one, right? So there is no option to enhance or to add in like a new features like to the existing application. So we have option like in Azure, like we can scale up or scale down, and we can inbuilt. We have an inbuilt monitoring solution, security, and we have yeah.
Just please share your presentation only on a desktop. Yeah.
Sure. I would like to share.
Yeah, the full screen mode, the presentation in your desktop.
I'm sorry. Able to see the screen?
Yes, Vamshi.
Yeah, sorry. And this is the option we have in the we have difficulties in the existing data center. So we have multiple solutions on the Azure, and we can transform the existing application like it's in .NET or any Node.js application, and you can transform that one to that to the Azure. Let's say if we want to do any POC or we have to enhance on the existing data center, we need to create another server on a data center, which is a cost associated or it is difficult or to check on our cost perspective. So this is one of the drivers or the migration drives to move to data center. And if we move to cloud, we have multiple integrations, like we can integrate to any of the services like an function apps, or we have multiple PaaS services that can be integrated to the hybrid solution. And apart from that, if you need any urgent or on-demand capacity increase, so it may require for do like if you have any like festival carnivals or any of the data to be saved. We have seamlessly it can increase a storage account on the cloud wise, but whereas on the data center side, it is very difficult to create another storage or another required alarm. Now we can increase the disk size. It may take some time on the on-premise side. So, and once coming to the software and hardware refresh, so always on the Azure side we have a latest application upgrades, and automatically that can be we have a latest versions, especially if you go with the PaaS services, right? So automatically it will upgrade with the seamless in the backend. So, and we have in security, we can identify the security threats on the same portal, on the same platform. And we have more tools to monitor the application and to make secure the secured, and it is very better. And we can get in compliance level report also. Let's say if you're living in the Europe region and they have an regulation like GDPR is there, and we need then compliance report whether the data is the data is residing on the same location or it is in copying to other location. Then we have a compliance report and we can act accordingly once we got an alert on the cloud side. So in the application innovation type, like the main application is running, like see in the we can enhance our application without touching the existing application. So we can add an API functionality to that an existing one, or we can add any like cognitive services to that one seamlessly without disturbing the production environment. Or we can add an artificial intelligence, or and we can move, or we can do like a green and blue deployment as well as. So this is the very good features we have in the Azure, and so why we would like to move to Azure. Today I enhanced on the few features on the Azure side, and I would like to explore like Azure has like multiple services, like say around 600 to 700 services we have towards like AI, machine learning, analytics, the compute, database development, identity, and much more services we have like IoT and MR integration services, media and comms on the networking side, and it has an inbuilt migration services like Azure Migrate, Databox migration, or we can database migration services, and we have site recovery as an option towards the Azure. And as of now, we can Azure has its services to run on its backbone, irrespective of the public cloud. So let's say we can integrate our PaaS services to the IaaS services using the Azure backbone only, not without creating any of the VPN connectivity between the source and the destination environments. So this is the new feature the Azure has, and which has an high reliability. And also we can see that we can migrate efficiently on our terms, and we can optimize the cost. We have in all the inbuilt cost optimization tools, and as well as Azure Security is one of the platform which will identify your source resources, and it will do the compliance report, and it will recommend the solution what should be what we need to do. Let's say for when we have published on a web app and which has no SQL like SSL certificate, and in the recommendations we can see that we need to enable certificate and on port 443, and such recommendations for the person which is new, he can identify, he can see the recommendations, he can and he can rectify or mitigate the issues to the security wise, and like availability and performance on each and every IaaS or web resources we have in Azure Insights, which will show the performance report and availability, how much or on demand we can scale up or scale down our resources, and we can do integrations to any of the services residing in the Azure platform. So this is the reason, and to move to Azure cloud, and how the migration journey should be like an on and more like all the migration journey will be the same, and here it will start like an assessment. So we will think about the cost environment, cost size, and like how much cost it is before moving to the cloud, and we need to check with the stakeholders or the users. We need to include our users, employments, and there may be a slight difference we can identify, and we can export to the customer. So once the assessment is done, and cost estimation has been done, or any with the tools, and we'll go to the migration approach. There we can do migrate the existing infra like an as is, or we can do the re-architecturing, or we can do the rebuilding without moving to the complete infra as is to the Azure, or we can do like containerization is one of the option, and or we can move the application, or we can reactivate the application and move to web apps, or if there is multiple dependencies and we have like a legacy infrastructure like 2008 R2 to give us support, we can move as is as a server. And once the migration of the infra is done, we can see the infra is running, and we can do optimization based on the monitoring associated to the resources, and we can save the cost offerings like creating like a hybrid benefit, which can save up to around 14% of the cost compared to the uh, open source. So we have a hybrid benefit, so we can move our existing licenses to the Azure, which will give we can benefit of 14%. So the reinvestment and do the more capacity and capabilities of the cloud. And also we can secure and manage with the existing tools. No need to go for in third-party tools. Again, we need to integrate our resources. Once you create a resource on the Azure, automatically, and we enable the security, automatically the resource will be under monitoring, and all the recommendations will be added to that resource. So we have multiple options and multiple services like OMS is the one of the good opportunity we have in the Azure. Like we can enable multiple solutions to that OMS. It's like an operation management suite, which will give like databases and any of the services, the migration events. We can create one dashboard, and we can monitor the resources. So this is the default journey, but we can have a multiple more or less the same approach. And here we have taken an Azure Migrate is a new tool as of now. The Azure has been provided, and it's like a central hub of the tools for our data center migration. So it has on the one screen we can have like assessment tool, assessment, discover, and we can have an option of migrating the resources, and we can migrate like any of the infra like Hyper-V VMs or VMware VMs or physical servers, and we can seamlessly transform with agent or without agent. We have two options. Based on that one, we can move the complete infrastructure to the Azure through an open cloud like a 443, or we can establish a private link. As of now, that was the new feature. We can establish a VPN connectivity, and from there we can move our resources to the Azure. So basically, what are the migration phases? So in the discovery part, we will identify the applications, and we can check whether the application is able to convert to, we can transform, or we can make it a containerized, or what are the dependencies before moving to that one, or only the application can be moved, or can we do the microservices. So based on that one, we can do the required conversions in the pre-migration stage, and in the migration stage, initially we will move the data and our schema, and after that we will move the data sync will happen, and once the data sync is completed, we'll go for the cutover. And the cutover is a minimal time we required to move or to do the cutover. As a blue-green deployment, we can go for, in the blue deployment, we can check everything is fine working or not, and once everything is good, and we can switch over to the the green deployment. So once the migration is completed and the post migration, we have to optimize, and we have to check for the application performance, and whether we need to scale up or as per the demand, or how the option will be. And then this is the one of the migration phase, and by default the flow also we can do manually, or we have two-way approaches, 2 to 3 approaches we have. We can do offline migration, or we can do directly online migration with a less downtime. And we have other options in the, so these are the tools we have for each of the migration goal. So we have based on the goals requirement, right? So whether we have multiple scenarios, like let's say Linux box is there, the database web application is there, and virtual desktops are there, or what type of the data sync we need to do. So based on the goals, so we have only the database is there. So if we have the only database, we can go with an ADF, the data factory is there, or database migration service is there. Initially, the schema will be read and we'll identify the dependencies, or if required, it will ask for to change the versions of the SQL queries. And once everything is done, directly we can sync the schema, and once the schema is updated, we can move the data to the migration services tools. Or if our goal is to run like a web app, so we have an existing IAS box is there which has around 500 to 600 websites are there. So we need to move containerize the each web app or each site. So we have option like an .NET site or any Java web apps. We can move it to PaaS services, or we can containerize and move it to AKS. And today I would like to go with the option 3, and which can be done assessment. So as of now, assessment report is not available on the portal side, but they have provided link to check whether our existing site is able to do containers or not. So we will go through that one in the next sessions. And beyond that one, we have in Azure Migrate also able to do like big data analysis, and we can identify, we can get the cost optimization of the workloads for the big data. And apart from that, and the Oracle side, and we can move, or we can transform our DMAP Oracle to PostgreSQL migrations. And Fivetron is the one of the company, or we have they have provided an HVR for the Microsoft Azure. Like it's like an high volume replications. So we can homogeneous and heterogeneous data replication option we have in the Azure Migrate, and the streaming data also can be do integration solutions, and which is easy to continuously ingest and process high volumes of the streaming. So like on-premise to cloud, and like real-time Kafka, Hadoop, NoSQL integrations, and hybrid cloud infrastructure. So these are the third-party integrations that has been done through Azure Migrate. So we can use these options to move, or to serve our necessity on the on-premise resources. So apart from that, Azure Migrate is also exploring more towards the different type of scenarios in the coming sessions. And so what are the main like migration benefits? So what are the benefits we will have on towards Azure when we move our resources from on-premise to Azure? Like availability performance, like a security compliance, and manageability. We can easily manage our infra, like no need to integrate with any third-party backup solution. If we want a backup or a DR site, we can integrate. We can create the existing infra as a secondary infra site and secondary region, and we can establish a traffic manager or a load balancer in between them. So when the one site is gone down, with a seamlessly we can directly switch over to the failover, or we can get the secondary managed data to the online. So we can manage very easily, and we can do integrations with the existing infrastructure, like Azure DevOps. We have in like and we can integrate, and we can do optimization or enhance our application using then different type of integrations, database migrations, and everything. So these are the benefits for the migration once we move to Azure, and this is one of the solution already pre-established on Azure. We have an Azure VMware solution, which is like it's like a private cloud that contains a vSphere cluster built from the dedicated bare metal on Azure infrastructure. So it allows to manage and secure applications across VMware environments, and Microsoft Azure with a consistent operation framework is there. So what it will do? So in the first part, right, it automatically enables the full stack of the VMware, like ESX, the NSX, and the vScan storage account, and HCX is the one of the inbuilt tool which will do migrations from on-premise to Azure. So it will replicate the complete of your on-premise data center, which has like a vCenter or ESX box, directly to the Azure with an express route or custom. We have a customer edge router. So and once migration is done, we can use our Azure services to integrate with the existing infrastructure. So this is one of the small application diagram architecture diagram of the AVS. So we can directly access to the on-premise vSphere or vCenter server and move the complete infrastructure with the complete with any no downtime or with a manageable downtime. So this is one of the solution, the complete VMware solution given by the Azure. So in the demo part, I would like to explore more on towards the ASP.NET application side. And in this session, I would like to prepare like environment preparation will be happened, and website assessment, how we can have assessment can be done, and like prerequisites to integrate with Azure Migrate, like and container registry and deploy to the AKS, and we can validate our application based on that one. So I would like to go to the demo page. So I'm on the Azure portal as of now, and hope able to see my screen.
Yes, you can see it.
Yes,
Thank you.
Vamshi.
Yeah. So it will take some time on the when we create a new AKS or a new container registry or creating an containerizing the app. So I would like to show what are the resources I have created, like created an AKS infrastructure and created one of the container, and these two will be integrated to our migration solution. So here I have created one web server. We have an so I have a web server created which is named as in like this is the name, and once we browse this, let's say it's in one of the site, the demo site, and when we browse the site, it is the website able to. This is the one of the ASP.NET application I have created on the server. So I would like to switch on to the server to migrate this website to then container registry, and so here is the this is the web server. Usually, developers or anyone connect to this Visual Studio and develop their application. And once the application is updated or made the necessary changes, that will be published to one of the uh, folder, and that folder is mapped to the IIS website. And this is one of the demo site I have created. And all the publish will happen uh, on the folder called demo site, one of the folder. This is the main folder from where we will accessing the we have our website. Let's see if we browse the site. This is the local site, and the same we are seeing on the public side also. Now I would like to so what are the basic prerequisites we have to move this site? So it's very simple, like Azure Migrate automatically gives an uh, uh, gives its appliance or give an executable files to uh, install on the given server, and so once we install this executable file, along with we need one web deploy tool on the web app or on the server where we are installing Azure Migrate executable files. So by default, this will be installed in our IIS, and by default authentication will happen. Authentication will be enabled for the site. So here we are going to select the application type. So our season like an ASP.NET web app, and the target is our, we can move it the same one to the app service as well as to the AKS infrastructure. Once it is selected, then click on the continue, and here we can accept the licenses, and it will check, it will do the basic checks like connectivity to the internet and installing the web deploy option and enabling the PowerShell. Once everything is success. Click on the continue. This will lead ask to continue to our infrastructure where we need to going to move this application. So I'm logging into the So once it's logged in, automatically the PowerShell will be using the PowerShell. The entire migration will be happened, and so once it is logged in, it will ask to select our tenant as well as the subscription sites. So where we have our AKS and container registry. Once we select our subscription, click on the continue, and here this will discover our application based on the web server. We have to provide our web server details. My web server is the same server we are using here, and we can go with the web server IP address, or we can have our web server hostname details if it is in domain. So this has been validated successfully, and so our web server, it requires an admin privileges to connect to its metadata. So it will read the IIS metadata file, and it will list out all the websites and the configurations it has. So today I am moving our demo site, which is uh, which we have seen, right? Which is in online. So here we can give any container name like our demo site or demo site colon version 1 or version 2 we can give her, and we can check the folders, or it will automatically from the metadata file of the IIS, it will identify the path of the site, and it will take that one as a source folder, and it will start copying and building the image with the Docker file. So automatically in the Visual Studio we have option to enable the Docker to image Docker file. Automatically that will copy to our the folder, and using this migrate app, this will be containerized and move to our container Azure Container Registry. So copying, once the copy is success, it start creating a Docker file behind. But meanwhile, we can browse our container registry, and we can ask it to move to copy that container once it is created to the container registry. Here is the Docker file based on our requirements, or based on our published to the published port. We can change our port, or if it's in like test site, we can create like an 8080 port for then testing purpose, or any UAT purpose, or any like that. We can change our Docker file, and once everything is fine, we can start building that containerize. This will build the container, and it will move to the container registry. Once this is done, and uh, the image will be pulled to the AKS. So here we can see it is in progress. This may take some time. So in the progress we can see what the Docker file, or what the Docker file has, and how it is creating an image, or how it is connecting to the, this is the container, it's successfully logged into our container, and we can troubleshoot out the issues if we have any during the process. So now it started creating a container with the existing files. So we can see by in the backend automatically it has created its own server, like a server core like 2019, where the restore option, or ASP.NET 4.8 that will be restored, and that will be it will pull all the dependencies from the existing file, and it will create a container image. So I am switching over to one of the video which will continue from here. and which has that the creation is completed, because it will take around 5 to 10 minutes to complete the image. So give me a second. Let me switch over to. So here we have the build status was started, and once it is completed here, it is successful. We can see the screen like this, and once successful, once the image is or instance is completed, it will push you to the container registry, and click on the continue to move further. There we have option to create a new cluster, or we can select the existing cluster. So here I'm going with an existing cluster, which we have shown you in the previous screen. So I'm selecting the existing cluster here, and clicking on the continue will do the validation of the AKS. So it will check the permissions for the whether it has a permission to pull the image from the container. So here is the secret store, or we can parameterize our application if we have any parameters, like to update our web config file. Here, if any parameterization are there, we can do our secret core here, and we can update the files. And if you have any videos or any streaming data is there, it's a persistent volume, we can attach the persistent volumes in this location. And once it is configured, when AKS is validated, it will ask for the deployment specification. So what type of deployment we will go with. Like by default, it will be like external, and the port will be displayed. We can change the port, or we can increase the number of replicas on that deployment. And once everything is provided, we can change our deployment. We can update our required details, and we click on the continue. This will create a deployment file, so which is an YAML file that will deploy to the AKS. So this is a YAML file. By default, it will be created, and if required, we can do the required changes, like creating and changing of the port, or updating the memory size of the memory and CPU sizes for the application based on our experience. And if click on the save, and it will create, it will move that containerize with the deployment parameters to then AKS. And this will take some time to deploy to the AKS, and we can see the deployment is available on our AKS infrastructure. So I would like to pause the video here, and I would like to share the AKS infrastructure again. So if you go to the container registry, if you see the repositories here, we can have the repository name. So this is the demo container 004. We have this is the image which we created, and so this is the IP address or external IP address that was created for that application. If you click on that one, so this is the site. This is the site we have created from the moved from the IIS web server. So this once this is up and running fine, we can update our CNAME or the DNS record of the main website to this location. And once the application is ready and application is running fine, then we can add our insights, multiple application insights to this website with the pod, depending upon the pod size, and we can identify the performance of the pod, and we can change the deployment number of deployments or replica sets on the cluster side. So it's a very good tool which is in preview as of now, and which we can move our infrastructure or websites which is based on the ASP.NET seamlessly to the Azure. And thank you for giving this opportunity. And if you have any questions?
Yes, Vamshi, I'll read it for you.
Sure.
How many servers can I discover within Azure Migrate appliance? First question.
Yeah, Azure Migrate has if you go with Appliance, so Azure Migrate from the portal and Appliance will differ. And if you go with Appliance, we can discover up to around 10,000 servers as of now for the VMware environment, and up to 5,000 servers on the Hyper-V environment, and around 1,000 physical servers from the Appliance side. And if you have the more servers, we can about scaling of hyperscale, as we can identify the assessment report, and we can based on the assessment report, we can enlarge our we can increase the appliances also.
Thanks, Vamshi. Next question is, how is the data transmitted from on-prem environment to Azure? Is it encrypted before transmission?
Yeah, actually, Azure Migrate is an agentless replication case where the compression data and encrypts before uploading. So data is transmitted over a secure communication channel over HTTPS, and it uses like a TLS 1.2 security or later. And additionally, it will encrypt the data from Azure storage, or it will save the data to Azure storage automatically, and it encrypts the data in rest and data in transit also.
Okay. Thanks. The next question is, what is the difference between Azure Migrate and Azure Site Recovery?
Okay. So Azure Migrate is like a central hub for assessment, migration, and to the Azure. We have assessment report also with that one. But Azure Site Recovery mostly used for the purpose of like a DR, like a disaster recovery. We can enable replication between the source like VMware Hyper-V physical, like a DR setup. So that can be used as a secondary infra using on-premise as the primary, or we can reverse the infrastructure. We can use Azure replication DR site as a primary and on-premise as the secondary one. And Azure Migrate supports different types of migration scenarios, whereas and ASR has an mostly to the infrastructure like Azure VM mostly is the one of the option to replicate, or only for but it's an old tool. The latest, the upgraded version for the some. However, some of the Azure Site Recovery options will be used from the Azure Migrate also. So it is recommended to go with Azure Migrate as of now, because by default it will use as an Azure Site Recovery as in its secondary in the background process.
Okay. So the next question is, what if same ASP.NET uses Web API or some other APIs referred as backend services?
So the API connectivity, so at that moment we need to migrate the source or the source or the main application initially, and we need to update the API endpoints.
Okay. The next question is Docker versus Kubernetes. What is the difference between Docker versus Kubernetes?
Yeah, Kubernetes is it's an orchestrator for the Docker created containers. So it may be a Docker container, or it can be an other ATK containers, or any of the Google containers. It's an AKS is an orchestrator. So Azure Container Kubernetes Services is an orchestrator for these containers. So whether your image is prepared with Docker containers or basically I have created a container within this. It's in Azure Container Registry. So automatically the container is supported on the Docker as well as any of the providers. So AKS isn't separate. So direct containers we cannot run on the AKS. So it requires a deployment. It requires a replication set configuration. So using a YAML file, we need to deploy any of the containers. So Docker is is there to prepare a container, but whereas the AKS is an orchestrator for those containers. So it will check the standby or the uptime of the container. So and it will maintain the replications. It will maintain the connectivity from the external resources, and it will maintain the container to stable.
Okay, thanks, Vamshi. Looks like we have covered quite a few questions on this topic. Thank you very much, Vamshi, for sharing your deep knowledge about ASP.NET App containerization and migration to Azure Kubernetes services.